Hello, hello. Let me know if you can hear me. As usual, before we get started, I'd like to just go through, I'd like to just say, if you have any comments, questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. If you've got any charts to watch, let me know. And yeah, we're going to cover some of the charts that we spoke about earlier in the week. Ended up taking a few positions this week. I like to kind of review the positions that we've taken and kind of just have a little look at what we could have done better, or if there's any other charts that we need to be focusing on right now as well. We've had some recent data overnight, which was a little bit of a shaker in the markets. We had a little bit of BOJ hawkish comments out of the governor 𝖢𝖣yiِ. That's kind of had a kind of a ripple effect on the markets at the moment, and the Bank of Japan has caused the sort of yen strength to happen essentially, and the yen has strengthened overnight. And that's something that we looked at the beginning of the week, beginning of last week as well, was the fact that we were eyeing up some yen strength. And yeah, I was euro yen short and Aussie yen short. Unfortunately, I missed out on the big move because I got out of the positions before that. So, but we're going to reflect. We're going to have a little review about sort of the trades taken and then some of the sort of opportunities that are around at the moment. We've just had some data drop as well. We've had US unemployment claims coming at 220,000 ahead of the 219,000 print, which was what was previous. And we were looking at a potential forecast coming up at 221. So below forecast, but above prior numbers there for the unemployment claims. Obviously, tomorrow's going to be a big day. Got NFP as well, and could be a tricky trading week, especially now because we're coming up towards the end of the year. We're going to come up into that lighter liquidity as well, lighter volumes in the market. So sort of after next week, really, it's usually sort of the after the sort of the second week in December, we start to see a little bit of a slowdown in the markets. So it's going to be an interesting one going into that sort of third week in a couple of weeks. So we'll kind of have a little look at what we can maybe prep in next year in those live streams. Who've got in? So Suba, thank you. Chris F, welcome. Vincent, good afternoon. I hope you're good. Just nothing. I hope you're well. I'm really good, thank you. Hope everyone is joined as well. And yeah, let's get cracking then. So I ended up taking a euro short yesterday. You can just see the trade in here. Took about 14 pips out of that move. It was a very small move. If we just zoom in, you can see the trade, so the tracker just through there. And I wanted to be short this week on euro US dollar. I'm very big on currency strength and weakness analysis, whether that be via currency strength meters or whether that be via fundamentals within the market. And at the end of the day, euro's weak at the moment. We know that ECB are looking to cut interest rates. They're looking to be sort of the first central bank to do that. They need to do that. German data are very poor at the moment, so they need to sort of do something essentially. So I do like euro downside, to be honest. And you can see at the moment we're getting a rejection up at this 1.0797 area, which were these sort of prior highs that formed yesterday, and we've come up into that level and we've started to reject that now. So it might be something to look into. Now let's just look at the sort of bigger picture first. Why were we looking at the opportunity? And then we'll come back to the trade that I took yesterday. So basically what we were looking at the start of the week was for price to kind of fill this area here. And the reason why is because usually when you get a large sort of move in volume, price will try and come back and fill that volume and then do whatever next. We may break to the downside, go and sort of test the lower areas, or we may reject here and move back up to the sort of previous level of resistance. But all in all, we were looking to see if price could come and fill this zone this week, and that's exactly what's happened. To be honest, we started the week sort of up towards this area here. The market came down, we consolidated, we talked about looking for shorts at this point, and I ended up taking a short position with here, looking to sort of target around these lows. I came out a little early. It was a little bit of a quick trade. The reason why I came out early was because data was on the horizon. So I believe the data yesterday, if I just kind of flick back to the news, was that ADP non-farm employment change. Yeah, so it was coming out at 1:15 p.m. for me. So I ended up closing positions before that because it was a very short-term move. I didn't want to be dictated by the sort of fluctuations in the market. If I was trading a higher time frame, such as the logs of the 4 hour, the 1 hour, I probably would have left that in play. But because I wasn't, then I didn't want to suffer sort of the consequences of leaving that in. Nobutembu, welcome to the live stream. Hope you're good. So yeah, euro dollar. Do I still like downside? I do still like downside in this market. The one thing we have to consider is the fact that we're coming into this kind of area of support now, and the market has pushed up from this area. Doesn't mean that we can't trade down to the next sort of point of resistance or support, sorry. It doesn't mean that at all. But we can see that the dollar has started to sort of lose a little bit of ground as well. If we just flick over to the US dollar index, you can see that we've come back into this 104 area and we have started to reject. Now, I don't know whether we're going to start feeling the sort of pressure here as well from the sort of yield market, the bond yields. I can see that the 2-year is down today. And the 10-year has been down. The 10-year around about that 4.1% at the moment, hitting those kind of highs of 5%. So usually when bond yields are down, we usually see the currency have an effect on that as well. So the dollar still, although I know we were looking for sort of strength in the US dollar this week, the overall picture of the dollar is a little bit weaker. Obviously, you can see we're now starting to see almost the data reflect what the Fed want to see in the markets, and especially in terms of the labor market. So it would be interesting to see how the NFP report comes out, whether we get any kind of unexpected moves there. Could really put a little bit of pressure on the dollar in two ways. I think if we miss to the low side, obviously we usually see that as bearish. But that's ultimately playing into the Fed's hands of seeing that low inflationary pressures and the potential to cut next year. They're looking at potentially March next year for a cut at the moment. But if we see any shocks to that, any kind of misses to the upside, that's where I think the ability to gain anything out of the dollar is held. If we see a bigger jobs number than anticipated, that dollar strength could obviously see price breach this 104, potentially 104.50, and head back towards this area here. So that could be something to look at in sort of tomorrow's trading. I don't typically trade NFP, I must admit. I try and stay away from that. So I will kind of do a little bit of analysis on it. It's not necessarily something that I take into consideration. But let's flick back to euro dollar. Sorry, I can see a couple of questions coming in. Temel, greetings from Turkey. Thank you for joining me, Temel. Hope you're well. Obina, hello. Temel, RDG Swiss, can we request it? Yeah, absolutely. I'll just make a note of it. I like to just go over a few of the sort of trades that I've taken this week, and then we can definitely go take a look at Aussie Swiss. MD, thanks for joining the live stream. Wants to take a look at pound yen. Yeah, I'm definitely going to talk about those yen pairs today, especially after those hawkish comments from the Bank of Japan. That's definitely something we need to go and have a little look at as well. Mohammed, welcome. I hope you're doing well. Right, let's go dive in then. Let's have a little look. So let's go look at euro dollar first. You can see that prices, like I said, it's starting to reject up at that hourly level. What I typically like to look for is a number of different things. I like prices to kind of be below the averages. That's something, especially if I'm looking at trend trading moves. And I can see the prices obviously come up into this area where we've had lots of selling pressure in the past. And at the moment, we have had a slight rejection. Now, what I like to see is a change of trend. So I don't class this as a change of trend just yet. I would expect price maybe to go and retest back in this area here. If it then started to kind of form a bit of a change, what I essentially like to see is a slowdown into an area, and then, you know, see that kind of flip from buying to selling. Obviously, we can see that we've had a sharp rejection of sellers here. So if that continues to trade to the downside, then I'm probably not going to be looking at anything in here. But let me just put the trade history on, show you that trade that I took yesterday. In here, it was very much trend based at the time. I was looking at the break below the 50 moving average, and I was just basically looking to target these swing lows. So like I said, very, very short term trade, this one. You know, I was expecting price to roll down to the big level of support, but we had news coming out. I had the ADP employment change data coming up. So I didn't want to be in the markets because my stop loss was right above this swing high. And, you know, if I'd left that in, I would have been stopped out, and then price would have gone in the direction that I was looking to kind of trade from in the first place. But I was looking at this high in here as a point of interest. I was looking to see if we could get a rejection in at that point. So, you know, I didn't re-enter a short here, to be honest, but this was the sort of trade that I looked at. A break below the 50, back down towards these lows in here. Graph does not look clear. Let me just change that up. Sorry, let me jump into and then I can zoom in a little bit. No, I need this one. Is that a little bit better? You can see it just here, the trade tracker, down to that point, which was these swing lows in here. Okay. So yeah, that was the sort of first position we were looking at. Like I said, is there a possibility that we could see another entry into euro dollar? There is that. We are, like I said, headed into NFP though, and we've just had those unemployment claims, so might be a little bit sort of late to kind of look for entries. I can also see the averages here are crossed over at the moment, so you know, it'd have to be a strong change of trend within this position to consider anything in there. The other markets that we were interested in this week, so another one was euro yen. We like the idea of trading euro yen short. I liked the opportunity to short euro yen as well this week. And, you know, if I just scroll back up here, this was the trade that I took yesterday. Again, came out of this because of that data that was coming in. It was a little bit of a short-term trade as well. You can see there's 25 pips there. Ended up having around about 12, 13 pip stop loss. And this was when the news kicked in. So the news hit in at 1:15, and then we rallied all the way back up. So I could have looked for another entry into this one as well, but I ended up being happy with the sort of results on the day. So I was just happy to kind of wait for another opportunity. I did not expect that data out of the Bank of Japan, to be honest. But yeah, what was I looking at here? If I just pop back up to the hourly time frame, and we just zoom right in, I was basically looking at a retest of these swing highs that formed. So we could see that the market was in a downward trend. The momentum was to the downside. We were below the 50 MA, which is something that I like to see if I'm looking for opportunities to the downside. You can see we formed a high in here. Price came back into that high. And then, you know, it's something like I always discuss in our live streams. It's identify where the move is and then look for an opportunity to the downside. Is there any way to increase the video quality of the live stream? Because I'm not getting enough video quality. It should be HD. Let me close down a few of my other pages, see if that helps. Maybe the internet's not good where I am today. Say where I am in the office. Let me have a quick look. It should be HD. Let me have a look in the settings. It says 720 for me. So usually when it the recording gets sent out, it's usually at 7:20 as well. Ryguy says it's all good on his side. Welcome, Ryguy. Maybe it's this sort of colours I'm using on the chart as well. Might not be that helpful. But yeah, like I said, I like to look at the turning points at those key resistance, and this is a very good example, to be honest, of waiting for price to come into a level and then looking at the price action around that level, and you can see what happens here. I was basically looking at the idea that the market was forming a head and shoulders pattern. You can see this kind of high in here going across, and I was looking at that was the left shoulder, the head, right shoulder. So I took the earlier opportunity there. In theory, what I usually wait for typically is a break and close below. So a candle like that is more something I would be into. But like I said, it was a short-term trade. I was looking to try and maximize my risk-reward ratio whilst being ahead of that news announcement as well. And, you know, dollar news shouldn't really affect euro yen, but dollar, you know, affects everything really. Because, like I said, you trade in the cross pairs, right? Now, if I come out of this, then let's go back up to the daily chart and let's move over. You know, we've had a big move to the downside. So we were looking at shorts basically all the way back up from 160s, you know, and we've had a 720 pip move now. And the currency strength meter was something that we saw as an opportunity as well to the downside. So this week alone, you know, the market has moved over 380 pips. So there was plenty of sort of plenty of pips to try and take hold of this week. Would I have been targeting anything under this low? Probably not, because like I said, I didn't expect that data to drop out of the Bank of Japan. But, you know, at the end of the day, we're coming into this kind of key support zone now where we saw quite an aggressive move back to the upside. So I would expect that if traders were short from this high, that we would be getting some profit taken around this point. Now, obviously, those profit takens on shorts are technically buys in the market. So I wouldn't be surprised if we did see sort of a little bit of a move higher. I still feel that euro yen probably has a little bit more downside. I'm kind of looking at these July areas, 26th of July in here, where you've got this kind of zone as a potential target. What I would really like to see is a very, very slow ranging pullback. What I mean by that is very, very small candles on the daily chart, okay? Because what that would suggest to me is that there's a lack of aggressive buying coming back into the market. So we could have a similar move down towards this area through here. Obviously, though, we've had a huge move. You know, typically after a huge move, we do see a period of consolidation and pullback. So I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest, seeing this type of move, and then for the rest of the year, we just kind of move sideways. But you know, we'll have to see how the market kind of moves throughout that sort of holiday period. But that's euro yen. So I can tick these off my list. Just want to, like I said, just want to go through some of these markets that we talked about this week in the live stream, as well as just charts analysis that we've done. Let's go over to Eurjpy then, because again, Eurjpy was something we like the idea of getting short on. I ended up getting short after price traded below this 50 MA. This time I ended up with a 70 pip reward. Got in a little bit late on this one, I must admit. We actually looked at this in the live stream as well on Tuesday. I wanted to be, we were looking at this area in particular, around about 176.40. And if you remember rightly, we were on the 5-minute chart and there was a double top in at that level. So if we just zoom up, this was an area where we were looking at, and at the time I was looking at this candlestick. So in theory, that would have been a way better short than when I got in down through here. You know, that was a little bit of looking at the market at the time and thinking that there was an opportunity to see this market trade lower. But again, we had that kind of news, I believe, coming up on Tuesday. Let me just flick back to that. Wednesday, where we got Tuesday. Yeah, so we actually had some data out of New Zealand as well at the time. And then we had the ISM services PMI at 3 o'clock, which would coincide with this movement in here. So what I usually like to do is wait for the dust to settle and then you get involved with a market or try and trade before. But that was definitely a good area to look to get in right at that high. And that was basically formed from these hourly highs in here. Again, momentum was to the downside. The trend is to the downside. We're below the 50 MA, which is something I like to particularly see. You know, it's not for everybody using moving averages, but for me, it's a visual aid. And I can see that price is making lower lows. And we can see here, you know, price came back up, formed the classic pattern at this area of resistance. So ended up taking that market short down towards these lows. Yeah, I was a little bit disappointed last week because we ended up going short in here as well. And I didn't hold my position because I thought that we were going to see price come into this level of resistance. So I ended up taking a very short-term trade here. And, you know, that would have been an absolutely amazing trade, that one, in terms of risk reward, in terms of sort of pips gained at that point. So I was a little bit disappointed, felt the downside would continue into this week, and now we've got that. But look at how the market's moving now. We're going sideways here. So, you know, is it the right time to continue to sell Euro Kiwi? Probably not. If we just flick up to the daily chart, these were the targets for us down at this level. You can see how price is reacting in and around here now. So, yeah, maybe Euro Kiwi is not the one to look at anymore in terms of trying to get that downward trend play. We might need to see price either pull back a little bit first or break and try and head for some new lows. We've got these lows that formed in June, and we've got these lows back in May. That could be something as well. I mean, we have got the two central banks here kind of on different ends of the scale. The RBNZ have actually been fairly hawkish in tone, whereas you've got the ECB looking to be sort of that first central bank that cuts interest rates. So really speaking here, Euro Kiwi is a good play just from a fundamental basis. But from a technical basis right now, we probably need to wait for some kind of resistance to be hit at the moment. But yeah, Euro Kiwi looking pretty good as well this week. And then for my final sort of position that I've taken, haven't added into anything today. Actually, no, there's two positions. I actually shorted natural gas as well, which played out pretty nicely. I mainly did it as well because of the swap charges are really good. But if we just flick over to Aussie yen, ended up taking a short position here that basically got stopped at break even, which you can see just in here. Let me zoom in. So this is one that didn't really work out in here. Okay. I actually went long. I was looking at shorts, but so say break even, I stopped out by about 5 pips. I ended up just cutting this one. I actually thought there was a potential for Aussie yen just to jump back into this resistance zone. So this is what happens when you go against the trend, right? Look at the move here. I'm glad I took my position out because my stop loss was below these lows. The news happened and I would have been spiked out here. Was very tempted to try and get in at this point as well, but refrained from it. My overall analysis on Aussie US dollar was to look, Aussie yen was to be short in that market. But this is, again, where you're kind of looking for positions in the market. You're thinking that, where do you want to be short from? I wanted to be short from up here. So in my head, I was thinking, is there an opportunity to try and trade back to that point? Very risky move, because if we go take a look at the hourly chart, you can see in here, very much like when we shorted here the week prior, price came back up into the averages, you know, and like I said, I like to see a break below the 50, right? So it was a little bit of an aggressive move for me to try and move up into that level. But this is where I did want to be short. You can see that high. I wanted to look at the double top play there, and I wanted to try and get short back down towards these lows. So I went against the trend. It didn't work out for me, and this is why I always talk about essentially trading with the trend. You know, even I can go against it sometimes. You know, so yeah, just be aware that the trend was down here. If we just go to the daily chart and zoom out a little bit, we have just broken through these kilos at 96, spot 10. Next sort of area is down in here. I can see that we've obviously had a large sort of consolidation up at this point here. So, you know, if I was to use volume profile, you've probably got a large volume point through this zone. So, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if we started to see a little bit of a pullback, maybe a continuation to try and target some of these swing lows. But we'll have to wait and see. I think I want to see how Aussie's reflected on the currency strength meter going into this weekend, really. So let me just bring in the currency strength meter just to kind of add a little bit of reasoning behind what we were looking at. So yeah, it was basically looking at, so you got the key at the bottom down through here. Aussie was the grey line, which we were looking at reversals on, and we started to see that weakness start to flow through now. Dollar is a reason why we're looking for reversals as well. We are a little bit early to this, I feel, but you know, if we see that kind of come back into the +5s, +4s going into next weekend, I think that maybe this is something we can look at. I think it's going to depend on how the NFP plays out, to be honest. Why we short euro, blue line in here was at the +5s, starting to push to the downside. Why am I long Japanese yen? We were at these -5s and we're starting to push higher. So that's my sort of reasoning behind going into this week. And you know, it has played out pretty well. So hopefully some of you caught some of the moves in the market. I really hope you did. But yeah, let's go talk about natural gas. Natural gas, quite an interesting market. So I ended up going short natural gas here yesterday. Ended up coming out of that move. I like the idea of getting the swap charges out of this market, but I actually ended up just closing it beforehand. Natural gas, I haven't traded in a very, very long time. So the reason why I was looking at this in the first place was because I think someone actually pointed out the natural gas last week, ended up doing some COP reports on it, some seasonal reports on it. And we noticed that on the seasonal analysis that natural gas through the sort of month of November and December is actually very bearish. And I was looking at that. We were looking at potentially, or the question was, would you buy natural gas? I think it was. I don't know if it was Bongo, actually. I can't remember. If you're in the room and it was you, let me know. I apologize if you know, I've messed up who talked about natural gas. But we did the analysis. We broke it down. We looked at the fact that the seasonals were bearish. The COP reports, more importantly, I think, were showing that there was no real buying coming into the market. So if you do want to watch that video, go head over to the Blueberry Markets YouTube page, and it's under COT. I think it was seasonal and COT analysis, live stream replay, I think we called it. And yeah, you can go and view what we were looking at there in terms of the COT reports. But if you're looking to buy natural gas, you know, I would be looking, in my personal opinion, down towards these key lows, down towards the 2023 lows. And you can see the bearishness in the market. So basically, I went and looked at the sort of technicals around it. Where would I get in? Where would I like to be short in the market? I noticed that price was pulling back towards these kind of 4-hour highs in here. And like I said, I'd like to be selling at highs, buying at lows, right? And the market came into that high, went into the hourly time frame, saw here that we had this kind of pin candle rejection. And I know that sounds simple, but because of the analysis that we did beforehand with regards to the seasonal and COT analysis, I was fairly confident with this one. So I just went short on the close, essentially. And yeah, the market traded lower, ended up taking some out of that. Again, haven't traded natural gas for a long time. I know that the swaps short are actually very good, but because I'd had such a good day, I was just kind of like, you know, don't really want to play around too much. Again, it's, you know, when you're trading in the markets, it's not about how long you can hold a position, it's about protecting that capital. Okay, so you know, I was happy with the capital gain. I ended up coming out of that position. So yeah, I mean, if you followed the same sort of analysis, it was last week we were talking about it. I can't remember the date that it was on. Was it last Thursday? I think it might have been the 30th of November where we were talking about it. And look at the move, really. If you were just looking at the 50 MA closes on this, then, you know, you would have had a really good sort of time here. The market trended lower and has been trending lower for some time. This is actually a really good market to look at in terms of trend, right? If I just take off the period separators there, just look at after we've had that sort of crossover. Crossovers are a little bit of a cliche, but, you know, the market does trend really nicely here. So who knows? I might be looking at some more natural gas shorts. I think if we can pull back into the 50 MA, I wouldn't mind seeing price come up a little bit higher, to be honest. But if we come back towards that 50 MA, I might be just having a little look at this, seeing if I can get another position. Because like I said, overall targets for me are down towards this 2.18 area. So, you know, I wouldn't mind looking for a continuation there. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on natural gas on my watch lists going forward. Do have to just be a little bit aware that we are coming into sort of these areas through here, right? So that's the only thing where we might see profit taken. We had a large move in, might see a bit of profit taken, might see a continuation down in line with the sort of seasonal and cut analysis that we did. Right, let's go jump onto some charts of interest. Sorry, that took a while to get through, 32 minutes. But let's have a little look. We want to be looking at pound yen and we want to be looking at Aussie Swiss. So let's have a little look at those. I want to see if I've got one open. I've got pound yen open at the moment. Obviously, pound yen, again, another market that's doing particularly well to the downside here. You know, will we see this kind of momentum continue at the moment? We've got a breach of sort of 182.70 at the moment, you know, which are a breach of these lows. I probably would say that the next sort of stop in terms of looking at support is down towards these 181s. So, yeah, quite like the idea of price coming down to this point. How you get in on this is the next question. You know, how do you get in on a falling knife, really? You got to try and look for areas where price kind of pulls back, and, you know, we can see there's a little bit a sort of volume being built up here. You know, maybe this is an area to look at if price continues lower. Pull back towards 182.60 could be a catalyst, but we're just kind of sinking at the moment. There's no real way of, I'd say, you know, jumping in on this at the minute. I'd be a little bit cautious about that. But yeah, those lows down here look like the next likely targets for pound yen. We did have Bank of England speeches yesterday, I believe it was. Bank of England Governor Bailey speaking. The UK is in a really interesting position because inflation hasn't really, I mean, it's coming down, but it's not like, you know, as good as other sort of markets or other kind of economies and countries. You've also got the debate that in the UK, they've just kind of, they've brought down sort of national insurance and things like that. And, you know, that could be a catalyst to seeing sort of some more inflationary pressure in the UK. So this move, I think, is just yen dominated at the moment, rather than pound weakness necessarily. I mean, I haven't looked at the market change. Let's have a little look at the market watch window. Let's have a little look at those sort of pound pairs. Let's go down. So we got euro pound slightly up on the day. What we got? We got pound Aussie down, pound CAD up, pound Swiss up, pound yen down. It's definitely more of a yen based move than it is a pound based move at the moment. And I think that might be a talking point in the near future, the fact that We're getting some reliefs in the UK. Oh, sorry, that's the dog's ears. We're getting some kind of reliefs in the UK, and you know, that could be a catalyst just to seeing a little bit more inflationary pressure, which means that the Bank of England might keep rates at a higher rate for longer. You know, will they hike again? Don't think so, but they just might keep those interest rates a little bit higher for a little bit longer. Hopefully that makes sense. Not really much technical I think we can do here, to be honest. I think the market's just going. Aussie, Swiss, VIX index, by the way, coming into that 13 area. Very interesting. Oil, I think, is really interesting at the moment, but let's go to Aussie, Swiss. Let's bring that on. Aussie Swiss, not really on my radar, Aussie Swiss, to be honest. Looks like we're seeing a little bit of a range play going on between this area here, these highs up here. Where are those levels? So we got around 58.50. And we've got 57.25. I'm going to go. No, 25. So looks like we've got a little bit of a, you know, we've had a break to the downside here. Buyers have stepped in. You know, could we see Aussie Swiss back up at this area here? Swiss franc in terms of strength and weakness, I haven't actually noticed anything because I'm not. Swiss franc says to be on a similar level as Kiwi, but just kind of floated over the past few weeks. It's not really giving me too much to shout about. So, you know, yeah, it's a little bit different from what we were looking at a few weeks ago, wasn't it? I mean, back here, we were looking at getting long towards 5,800 or 59, sorry. That outlook has completely changed. And again, you know, when you start to see two currencies kind of getting stronger together and then they're both kind of in similar positions on the currency strength meter, you know, we've just got sideways movement here. And, you know, the market's just stuck between these 2 points. So in terms of opportunity, the only thing I would say is the obvious thing to do is play the range, you know, looking at longs from the lows of the range, sells from the highs of the range. Is the only thing that I would be particularly interested in if I was looking at Aussie Swiss. Question, right guy, is the market just waiting for NFP data tomorrow? Most pairs except the yen seem to be ranging. Yes, I would say so. It's typical NFP sort of style of trading, really, isn't it? I feel, especially when you're starting to be on, you know, we're on Thursday now, going into that Friday data. The markets can be a little bit tentative. And, you know, we are heading into that holiday period, you know. We're going to see big risks being taken by funds at the moment? Probably not. Probably more going to see some winding down of positions, if more than anything. So, yeah, I think NFP is going to be an interesting one. Like I said, my interest in the NFP, if it misses to the upside, what are the forecasts showing? I think it was 180. No, let's have a look. So it's actually, the miss is to the upside at the moment. Forecasts suggesting that we're going to climb above prior 150k, up 185. When you're looking at NFP, always look at the revisions as well, because they tend to revise the data quite a lot. So I think if we actually see, let's say NFP tomorrow, non-farm employment change comes out above 200k, revision above 150 to the upside, I think that would be a little bit of a shocker. And I do think that the dollar would gain some strength off the back of that. But we shall see. Average hourly earnings looking to jump up 0.3% as well. So, you know, is that a bit of a sign that the market could trade a little bit higher? We've had other data come out. Unemployment claims are up, so that wouldn't suggest necessarily that the jobs number for the month is up, and we had ADP non-farm employment change revised down at 106 and come out at 103 for the prior month as well. And we know that the ADP non-farm employment change can be a little bit of a sort of predecessor to NFP in a way, kind of gives you a clue as what could potentially happen. But basically it just excludes the farming industry and government industry. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that actually does portray in NFP this week. So yeah, I think going into tomorrow is going to be a little bit of a difficult one. Can I ask another question? Yeah, sure. In terms of NFP, how come the market tends to go in one direction and then reverse? A lot of the times, so you got to think, a lot of these sort of people that are involved with the markets and things like that, they tend to be sort of ahead of the curve, right? So I would say us as sort of retail capacity traders, we are sort of reactionary, right? Whereas a lot of these funds have to plan ahead of times, because they're not just, you know, making, well, I was going to say they're not trading millions on a daily basis. They are, but they have to put orders in at specific points, right? So that's why you see, you know, big moves coming from lows and stuff, because they need the liquidity to get involved in the first place. So I would say that's one of the reasons, is you'll see sort of moves in one particular direction, but then what tends to happen is the overall direction of that market, the market does tend to continue in. I think what we can get caught up in, or I was very guilty of this when I first started my journey in trading. One of the reasons was, you know, the NFP was made out to be such a big event, and I would go to NFP thinking that I was going to make money, but NFP is not for people to make money. It is not for people to make money. If you make money trading NFP, fair play to you, but it's not something that I think retail should get involved with, because of what you've just said there. Market tends to go in one direction and then it fades the move, okay? And then again, that also then depends on the rhetoric behind it. You know, what are the Federal Reserve looking at in terms of jobs? You know, what are they looking to do? How does it affect inflationary pressures? You know, so a lot of the times, the move in the one direction is the liquidity hunts, it's the stop hunts. That's why you often see the price move into an area of volume, or even into, you'd probably view it as maybe like viewing, you know, breaking previous highs and stuff and then dropping down, right? That's a big reason as to why you see stuff like that. Hopefully that answered your question. Aussie US dollar was one that we were looking at this week. Haven't really got involved with Aussie, to be honest. Looks to be having a little bit of support at the moment. Let's have a little quick flash to cable. I did like the idea of being short cable up in here, but yeah, haven't really looked at that since. Again, look, overall of the direction of the trend is down. News comes out, market goes up. Where does it go and hunt? Look at that high. You know, if people are short here, their stop losses are above this high. Grabs liquidity, starts trending lower again. Okay. So you got to be careful of news events. Got to be very careful of news events, especially if you're a lower time frame trader, right? If you're a 4-hour, you know, daily trader, you don't need to take as much sort of attention of the news. Obviously, it's big. You got to still be willing to look into that kind of stuff, but you know, you've also got to be a little bit. I would say it's more for the lower time frame traders. If you're a trader on the hourly and below, you've got to really be considerate of your news. Okay. Right then, guys, I think that's it from me. If you are trading NFP tomorrow, good luck. Please use a reduced risk. Like I said, the game is about capital preservation over everything else. I hope you enjoyed the live stream and the content this week. If you are in the VIP trading room, send me a message. You know, drop me a message in that as well. And I will leave it there. Thank you to everybody that's joined and asked some questions today. I'll just give you a few shout outs. We've got Suba, we've got Chris F, Vincent, Just Nothing, Nobatembu, Temel, Abina, MD, Mohammed. Thank you very much, Rye Guy, Inno's joined as well. Love that, Inno. Love to see you here, Rye Guy, and Justin. So yeah. Thank you all for joining me today. Thank you for your comments and stuff. If you learned something new or you enjoyed the live stream, please hit that like button, and I will catch you in the next one next week. So have a great weekend, guys, and I'll see you soon.